Prudent Scholars in association with Goa Headmasters Association.
Hello students. Today we are going to do the lesson on water resources. But when it comes to water, I wouldn't want to just stick to what the book is telling you. There is something a little beyond that we need to know about water resources. I have got a video for you which speaks about the importance of water as a resource and what we have been doing all along. Water is such an important entity, not only as a resource, but the effects of water that we have been seeing as a result of climate change. The United Nations World Water Development Report 2020 highlights these things. It says that climate is changing and 90% of the disasters are water related. They become more frequent and intense, and one cannot address climate change without considering water. So managing the improved water is an opportunity to mitigate climate change. So we need to consider this while planning the use of water. And today, ever more, it is becoming very important. I would like to call to your attention to our Nobel laureate, Rabindranath Tagore. He pioneered to preserve nature and environment much years ahead of what you and I could think of. He was a lover of nature, and you will see that he has written poems. He was very artistic also, as you know, and he paved the way for us years ago on the importance of water as a resource. With this, let us begin the lesson, water resources. This is a journey to see what is the impact of water today, besides that, how India from ancient times have been conserving water as an important resource. How is fresh water made available to us? We all know, we've studied it from the smaller classes, that the hydrological cycle supplies fresh water to us. Then, why should there be scarcity and why should we manage our water resources? Why scarcity? Do we have enough? See, the availability of water varies over space and time because of the variation in the seasonal and annual precipitation. As you know, and you have studied in the previous classes, we've got places in our country, regions which get abundant rainwater, while yet some fall in the leeward side. They do not get enough of rain. Besides that, what you and I today are doing is overexploitation, excessive use, and unequal access of it among various social groups. You must see when the PWD announces a water shortage, how we all rush like mad, right? That is because we won't get access to it. There will be unequal access to this resource, and that is the time we are shaken up. So this is precisely why we need to conserve water, and we should be very judicious while using water in our daily life, that is at domestic level. They say that India's water crisis is real, and will it happen by 2020? We are already into 2020, and we have been struck by this COVID-19. One important aspect of preventing this illness is washing our hands. Is there enough water for everybody to wash their hands? Is a big question mark. Why is there an occurrence of water scarcity? An area or a region may have ample of water resources but yet have or face water scarcity. That is because of the outcome of a large and growing population. You know, we have crossed 1 billion mark in our population. So, this population requires a lot of water, and therefore, we also see that all the people do not get enough of access to this water. So, the outcome of a large and growing population and the consequent demand for water and its unequal access. Now, when we have a large population, we have a large amount of domestic requirement. If you see the pie chart that is provided there, it tells you what is the standard consumption of water per person per day, right? So, this population means more water for domestic use as well as for food production. Higher food grain production means exploitation of water to expand the irrigated areas and to carry out dry season agriculture. When we carry out agriculture beyond the rainy season, which is about 8 months of the year, is referred to as dry season agriculture, and most of our farmers are very busy even during this dry season period. As a result, we see that dry season agriculture takes up a lot of water. Farmers may install wells and tube wells, thereby increasing their production, which leads to the falling of groundwater levels, right? Therefore, affecting the water availability for the others and food security of the people. Next, we have industrialization and urbanization, because water which is used for 3 main purposes: domestic, industrial and an agricultural purpose. So, when we talk of industrialization, urbanization also goes hand in hand. The Industrial Revolution, with its ever increasing number of industries, exerts a very heavy pressure on the fresh water resources. How? They need to run their offices and their factories, so they use a lot of water for their need. Besides that, they use it from the power or from hydroelectricity. Since water is used to generate hydroelectricity, they indirectly depend on water as a resource. Next, urbanization. Referring to the dense population of the country, we see that urban centers have aggravated the situation by having their own groundwater pumping devices. When we did resources and development, we focused on this. We said that there are places which have got water, but when you have an urbanization taking place over there, when you have colonies coming up over there, we see that they use a lot of water because water is a requirement for everybody. So these colonies or these urban centers have their own groundwater pumping devices to meet their water needs, and therefore this fragile resource has been overexploited, causing depletion in several cities. You know, by 2050 there will be so many cities in India which will have a problem of water. There will be water shortage and those cities may become ghost cities eventually. Water, they say, is sufficiently available, which is true, but it could be of bad quality, contributing to its scarcity. So, bad quality of water also will contribute to scarcity in spite of having water. Now, why could we have bad water? That could be because it will definitely be polluted by domestic and industrial wastes, chemical, pesticides and fertilizers which are used in agriculture, making it hazardous for human use, and you know we cannot consume polluted water. So, therefore, we feel there is a need to conserve and manage our water resources. So, why do we need to conserve and manage these resources? The points are, first of all, to safeguard ourselves from health hazards. In the previous point, we just said that consuming polluted water is hazardous for human use. So, therefore, we need, in order to safeguard ourselves from health hazards, we need to have clean, potable water. Next, We need to ensure food security. Therefore, we must have abundant of rain in order to grow crops during the dry season agriculture. For the continuation of our livelihood and productive activities, we just spoke about industries that they require water. So, our livelihood and productive activities require a lot of water. And the last, to prevent degradation of our natural ecosystem, thereby preventing an ecological crisis. You've seen in the video that I showed how water contributes to 90% of the disasters, and these are ecological. Let us see how ancient India conserved water. You know, our forefathers had a lot of love for nature, concern for nature, and so they were very simple in their thinking. So they used their mind to preserve and conserve all sorts of resources, whether it is water, whether it is animal, forest. So we see, let us see now for certain hydraulic structures of ancient India. The first we begin with embankments. Embankments are closures where water has been conserved and preserved. This is a monument called Jahaz Mahal in Mandu in Madhya Pradesh. You can see how they have conserved, how the embankment has been made around or within a palace. The next is a hydraulic system in Chittorgarh near Udaipur, which has bathing place within the great city walls on the mountain. If you look carefully at the slide, at the picture, you can see people are bathing there. So it is like a moat which has been made in order to conserve water. An old ancient Indian deep well with lots of steps near Amber Fort in Jaipur. So if you see, it looks like a patchwork sheet. See the mathematics and the aesthetics that has gone into constructing of this step well. We also have something known as talabs. The first picture is of a talab, another embankment where water was stored and utilized by the locals. And we have also a lake over here, the next picture. It is at Hauskas outside Delhi. This lake, people used to use it for domestic needs. The next we have reservoirs. The Chand Baudi is the deepest well in India. Look at the magnificent structure that it has. It looks like a stadium, isn't it? The Chand Baudi was built around AD 800. It has 3,500 narrow steps which add to the aesthetic beauty of the structure. This step well was constructed back in the 9th century to meet the water demands of the local people. It is a 13-story building which is about 100 feet deep, making it the deepest well in India. The next were dams. These are some old historic dams which were embankments for water, and they regulated the use and the flow of the water and later its use. These are a few recent dams. Now, dams were hailed as temples of modern India by our late Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru because he said dams had a great role to play in Indian economy. Apart from irrigation, they are the producers of hydroelectricity which runs major industries of India. We also see that dams were used as a measure of flood control. So again, they tapped the water and the place was kept secure from floods. Lakes. We also have lakes. There is one famous lake known as the Bada Talab or the Upper Lake in Bhopal. It serves as a major source of water, producing 40% of water for its residents. It is one of the largest man-made lakes. Does it look like a man-made lake in the first picture? It is dedicated to King Pamara Raja Bhoj. They even have a boating club over there. So here in the last few slides you saw some of the ancient hydraulic systems for conserving and preserving water by our forefathers. The multi-purpose river valley projects. You can see in the map of India, the big blue dots are certain multi-purpose projects. We can see that at independence in 1947, there were fewer than 300 large dams in the country, and by 2000, the number grew to over 4,000. We are in 2020 now, right? What is the use of a multi-purpose project? It controls floods, it provides irrigation facilities and navigation, it generates electricity, it promotes inland navigation, fishing and afforestation. It is used for domestic use or human consumption. It is also used for power generation or hydroelectricity. You see there is a project over there known as the Salal project right up in Jammu Kashmir. Then we have the Chamira, we have the Bhakra Nangal project, then you have Kota, there is one in the east at the Hirakud project. So we see in our textbook we have got only to study about the Bhakra Nangal project. It is on river Satluj, basically lying in the state of Punjab. The Salal project which isn't there, but anyway that is on river Chenab in Jammu Kashmir and it is used for hydropower. The Hirakud is on further down in the east is on river Mahanadi as you can see, and it is a multi-purpose project. So these projects were created in order to meet all the 6 requirements of human beings. Today we see that dams have come under scrutiny and opposition. If in the previous slide we have learned that dams have got multi-purpose use and we've learned 6 types of uses, why do you think they have come under scrutiny and opposition? What is the opposition about? The first point is that regulating and damming of the rivers affects the natural flow of the water. If you see in this the small picture of the dam that I have for you, you will see that here there are streams of waters which are coming down. They are getting collected in this place which is a reservoir. So what happens is that all the sediment which would have naturally come down, followed the natural path or the natural course of the water, would have reached the floodplains into the fields for the purpose of agriculture. But now what is happening? When you regulate and dam a river, this is the dam, you can see the way the water is gushing. So that means in this reservoir there is a lot of water, right? So all the sediment gets collected in this reservoir, and therefore they say it causes poor sediment flow, resulting in the excessive sedimentation at the bottom of this reservoir. So the reservoir, which is like a cup which holds all the water, that would hold the sediment as well. So this affects the river's aquatic life, which is true because whatever food matter that was coming down or that would be coming down from the water body now remains in the reservoir. Besides that, these fragment rivers making it difficult for aquatic fauna to migrate, especially during spawning. What happens? Fish, they follow the natural path, the natural course of the water. So when the rivers are dammed, they get confused, they do not know which side to go. So even if they have to come down or wherever they would come for spawning, for laying their eggs, you would see that there is a very strong flow of water. So that would confuse them, and so this is a very important ecological aspect. Fifth, the reservoirs created on the floodplains submerge the existing vegetation, leading to its decomposition, therefore bringing in pests and illnesses and things like that. To add to that, we see that dams have been the cause of many social movements. Now, social movements for what? It has been responsible for the large-scale displacement of local communities who give up their land, their livelihood and their meager access to this resource for the greater good of the country. If you see here in this slide, you will see that there are environmental issues. There is the Theri Dam Andolan, the Narmada Bachao Andolan. So, all these andolans were because of the displacement of the local communities and the loss of their livelihood, right. At the same time, it increases the social gap between the rich landowners, the large farmers, industrialists who would benefit from these river valley projects versus the poor farmers who, or the landless poor that we call. Dams also create conflicts between people wanting to use their use and the benefit from the same waters or from the same resource. So, many people who there would be conflicting views on the usage of this water. This irrigation has changed cropping patterns. Now, what has irrigation done? In fact, we thought that irrigation was a savior, or the dams were saviors to our irrigation and our agriculture. But due to these irrigation facilities, many farmers have shifted to water intensive and commercial crops. Now, crops that would take a shorter duration of time or shorter period of time to grow, but being more water intensive, by which the farmer would definitely benefit from immediate returns of his agricultural produce. So, therefore, the farmers have now, they are smart enough to move on to water intensive commercial crops. Also, we see that too much of irrigation contributes to the salination of the soil. This has widened the gap between the rich and the poor. So, the poor farmer and the rich farmer and the other in the hierarchy who would benefit from these growing of these water intensive commercial crops. The rich and mighty who could afford higher inputs have become richer, whereas the poor have failed to get the benefit of this capital. For example, we see that the Sabarmati basin farmers have objected because the water from the Sardar Sarovar dam has been used for urbanization, to provide water to the cities and not to the farmers. We see that these projects also lead to various interstate water disparities or disputes. The states are landing up in conflicts over the benefits and sharing of the cost of the multi-purpose irrigation project, because they run in crores. So, who would not want to fight, or who would not want to get something free? Like Goa and Karnataka are loggerheads on the construction of dams and the diversion of the water which comes down to us as river Mandavi. Now, what have been objections? After having sat and studied, it was observed that these river valley projects have failed to achieve the purpose for which they have been built. Like, instead of controlling floods, they have triggered them due to the sedimentation in the reservoirs. Now, when we have sedimentation in the reservoirs, part of the reservoir is filled with sediment and part of it is filled with water. So, instead of that reservoir being fully made convenient or available for the water, sediment has settled over there. Sedimentation deprives the plains of its natural silt. So, this sedimentation, which naturally would have gone down to the plains and used for agriculture as alluvial soil, has now been deposited in the reservoirs, right, making mandatory the use of fertilizers. Therefore, now our land, our agricultural fields require fertilizers. Excessive rainfall has made them unsuccessful in flood control. What happens when there is excessive rain? The water comes gushing down the mountains, the reservoirs get overfull, and therefore you need to open up the gates in order to drain that water, otherwise it would cause a huge pressure on the dam, the construction of the dam. So, therefore, that would, instead of controlling floods, it would cause floods. Floods not only devastate life and property, but also cause an extensive amount of soil erosion, which is very expensive. So, they have induced earthquakes. Construction of dams have put so much of pressure on the crust of the earth that it contributes to the formation of earthquakes, causes pollution. Sometimes in the reservoir, if you find whatever matter there is, animal matter, vegetation matter, sometimes gets rotten over there. Waterborne diseases and pests. So, that is why there has been an objection to river valley projects. So, now to solve all these problems, what ancient people in the country did, not only in India but also the other parts of the world, they had this habit of rainwater harvesting, which is something new to us or more recent to us. So, rainwater harvesting, they realized, was a viable alternative socio-economically and ecologically efficient method to store our fresh water resources, because we studied that our fresh water is available from the hydrological cycle. So, they had the knowledge of the rainfall, the soil types, and it enabled them to develop techniques suited to their place or their region for harvesting of the rainwater. The first example that we have in our textbook is something known as the kulls or gulls. These were diversion channels on hills and mountain areas, especially in western Himalayas, for carrying water which was melted from the glaciers. And this water would run down would be utilized for irrigation when they had those terraced farming. In Rajasthan, we speak more of Rajasthan and those drier parts of our country in the examples. We see that the people in Rajasthan adopted something known as the rooftop rainwater harvesting in order to store the drinking water. If you see, can you see these channels which are collected into one big tank over here in order to store their water? While the people in Bengal, they made something known as inundation channels in the floodplains to carry water from the rivers and the other water bodies to their fields for irrigation. Kadnis in Jaisalmer, that is in Rajasthan, were nothing but agricultural fields which were converted into rain-fed storage structures which allowed water to stand and moisten the soil. Now, you can see in the picture that's a huge field, okay, a huge land where water is stored in order to soften, because it becomes very hard. While on the other hand, Johats in Rajasthan were small earthen check dams, these check dams over here, to capture and store the rainwater. So, in wherever they had depressions, they would just build a check dam to stop the flow of water and lose it. Tanka. Tanka is a cylindrical paved underground pit into which rainwater from the rooftops, courtyards and artificially prepared catchment flows. Once completely filled, the water would last throughout their dry season. An important element of this in these arid regions, especially in Bikaner, Phalodi and Barmer regions of Rajasthan, would be that these tankas would save the people the drudgery of going far to fetch water. And besides that, it was best available when the heat was maximum during the summer seasons. So, this is the picture of a tanka. How did they make the arrangement of these tankas? These tankas were installed either in the courtyard, as you can see over here, it is installed in the courtyard, or in a room inside the house. Now, if the house was large enough to accommodate the tanka, well and good. Water from the first spell of the rains was allowed to drain off as it wouldn't be clean. The subsequent showers were collected, and this rainwater is known as Parlour Pan. You can see that the rainwater from the roof is collected in channels which would go down into the tanka. Here also, even though it's a small hutman, you will see that this water is channelized into a reservoir of water. This most probably goes down into the ground, to fill the groundwater or increase the level of the groundwater. This rainwater is known as Parlour Pani because it is considered to be the purest form of water. These tankas, when constructed either in the courtyard or in the underground rooms, would help keep the room cool and beat the summers. So that not only helped in conservation of water, but also keeping the room nice and cool. However, Western Rajasthan has stopped the practice of rooftop rainwater harvesting as plenty of water is available from the Rajasthan Canal. However, this rooftop rainwater harvesting method has been borrowed from Rajasthan into a small place known as Gendathur. It is a village in Mysore in Karnataka where the villagers have installed rooftop rainwater harvesting systems, thus earning the distinction of being very rich in rainwater. If you see the picture here, this rainwater is collected from the terrace, it goes here, it goes into a bigger tank into the ground. So making these people very rich and self-sufficient in rainwater, a beautiful technique of rainwater harvesting, free water. We also see that there is something known as bamboo drip irrigation system, and this is seen in the northeast because there they have a lot of growth of bamboo and it's a hilly place. So putting up anything concrete is very expensive. So people in Meghalaya, this is a picture of drip irrigation in Meghalaya where the people carry up bamboo drip irrigation. This is how they guide the water into their fields. This is the main channel. The water, if it has got diversion, would be here, then the water would come here. It is just cutting the bamboo and linking it to one another so that it goes into their fields. And with that, we finish this beautiful lesson of water resources. Remember always, water is required for us from the womb to the tomb. So we need to conserve this water. We have a lot of problems regarding water and the consequences. So I wish you the very best so that you can conserve water not only this year because you are studying about water, but all throughout your life. Thank you.